Another way that we come to understand individual differences is through the lens of emotions. You might recall that in our typical understanding, the predominant understanding of human nature, of who we are as human beings, what we all have in common is rationality, that we are all rational utility maximizers. In fact, the evolutionary accounts tells us that when we became Homo erectus, and we are sort of Homo erectus is an ancestor of us, we inherited part of that brain. And what I want to show to you is in some way how important emotions are to us as functioning human beings, and why it is important to understand the differences in emotional types possibly, and how we deal with them in good management. Before I go there, I just want to share with you that in many organizations that I have worked in and that I've come into contact with, emotions are seen as something suspicious. Emotions are seen as something that need to be suppressed. Oftentimes professionals come and talk with me and say, you know what, it is unprofessional to be emotional. Emotions conjure up some kind of sense of weakness, being not in control, being unmanageable, unprofessional. So here is what the novel account will share or say to us. In many ways, I'm going to try to create an image of our brain. And this is sort of the core that they call the stem. And this is a second piece. And this is a third piece. This is not a perfect image of a brain, but it is serving our purposes for now. This stem here is what we would typically consider the instinctive brain. This is where our impulses come from, where our reflexes are. That's what gives us very quick decision making in fear and flight kind of situations, etc. This is something that we share with most amphibians, other species, and that's why it's oftentimes called the amphibian part of our brain. This is reflex. This is the reflex part of the brain. The second part of the brain that we have developed, especially going through becoming Homo sapiens, is where, in a very simplified way, emotions lie. Okay? Emotions have been seen as shortcuts, intelligent shortcuts to help us handle social situations. They range and are in some way fed by the instinctive brain. For example, fear is a very strong emotion. Fear of snakes, fear of animals, fear of other human beings. That is in us. That is a survival mechanism. We have those emotions in us. But we have built other types of emotions around it. We have built emotions of care and love and concern that we consider positive emotions. And we've also developed a number of other types of fears like disgust, envy, and other things that help us navigate the complexity of our social interactions. So these emotions are clearly very critical. And only here, this part, is basically where we say, rationality comes in, reason comes in. Okay? And this is on top, lying on top of this emotional brain, but of course, this is very simplified. They interact with each other. I am sure that many of you have heard of the term emotional intelligence. What this means is that emotions aren't just bad, aren't to be suppressed, are unprofessional. In fact, that there is an intelligent way of using and harnessing them. Every marketer, every advertiser would know that and agree with you that we need to tap into emotions and emotional appeals to get people to buy things, to do things, etc. Same way in management. We need to address people in some way through the emotional side of them. Now, some people are more quickly to anger, some people are more stoic. There are differences in emotional types. We will understand, you will learn a little bit your profile, your emotional intelligence profile as well. And it's important to understand that as much as anything in terms of related to with intelligence, it can be built, it can be strengthened. We are different in our employment of emotional intelligence. Okay, there are some that are very intelligent already and some that aren't so much. These are differences at the individual level that are important to understand.